Alonui kākou e nā kanaka tauke a me nā poe like ole e noho ma ke ia aina pula pula me ke aina nani loa. Mahalo nui I ko o kou loko mai kai a me ke kono ana ia mako o na oia hoi nā mea I hiki I kia mokupuni. Mai nā mokupuni e ae I noho I ka Moana nui in the broad Pacific Ocean. I'm very pleased to be here, and I want to issue a few disclaimers before I begin. I wrote a paper for this conference because Kasi kept bugging us to write a paper and to submit it on time. And as I have met more and more people here since arriving 2 days ago, I've realized that I don't want to speak of this paper at all, but really respond to some of the things that I have been gifted with. Last night, we met at PTC I was told, 18 chiefs and headmen. It looked like there were 25 or 30 people there. I wasn't sure who was the chief or who were the headmen. And there were significant numbers of women there as well, so I was thoroughly confused. But one thing I did hear was a number of elderly people speaking in their language, something that our people have not been able to do for some time. It occurred to me then that whatever I thought I had to instruct you with needed to be set aside, and that I had to listen, and that my role here is to listen and to consider very carefully what we as islanders are facing together. I will be introducing a couple of concepts, but that's for later. I want to begin. I used to sing better than I sing now, but I am an old man, and the voice doesn't always do what I think it will do, or it's supposed to do. I hope you will be forgiving. This is a song that I wrote in Papua New Guinea, in Madang, in 2014, when I was privileged to attend a conference that I helped to plan, along with Kasi and a number of other people from Fiji, from Kiribati, from America, from Guam, a wonderful conference on globalization, on modernization, and how it was impinging on the people of the Pacific. At the same time, we were guests of the government and the people of Papua New Guinea. We were also privileged to meet with people who have been struggling with Indonesia in West Papua. So I wrote this song. The title of the conference was One Saltwater, One Saltwater. And I'm going to perform that for you now. This is a folk song, so it's actually pretty easy to learn. Perhaps by the end of the song, you'll be singing with me. Once I had a memory that was long. Once I had a garden, now it's gone. One Saltwater, I believe your song. One Saltwater. Once I caught my fish within this net. Once I knew what I should not forget. One Saltwater, you will lead us yet. One Saltwater. Once, O Moana, our children will return their lives to thee, thou gracious sea. Once, O Moana. Once I saw the morning star at dawn. Once I saw their army sailing home. West Papua, you are not alone. Once, O Moana. Here's the chorus, you might sing this now. Once, O Moana, our children will return their lives to thee, thou gracious sea, thou gracious sea. Once, O Moana. Once, O Moana, our children will return their lives to thee, thou gracious sea. Once, O Moana. Once, O Moana. I thank with all my heart Kasi Aisake and the Pacific Churches Conference and Upolu Va'ai and the Pacific Theological College for the invitation to speak to this Vakatabu Conference. Ask for the ancient paths and walk in it. I'm also deeply grateful to the chiefs and headmen who welcomed us last night for the kava. There was so much kava. And the kuka, that's our word for just conversation, deep conversation, that allowed us travelers an appreciation for your histories and your culture. I've been honored and deeply blessed to be on the faculty of the University of Hawaii for almost 33 years. Following a very long experimental period as a student, mostly in the Department of History. I'm originally from Hilo, Hawaii, born to two Kanaka Maoli, that's Native Hawaiian parents, Elroy Lealoha Osorio and Clara Ku'ule Kei. But since enrolling in a boarding school in Hawaii, in Honolulu, I have spent most of my life on the island of Oahu. The Hawaii Nuyakea School of Hawaiian Knowledge is not large by university standards, about 36 teaching faculty, around 120 undergraduate students and maybe 50 graduate students. But almost all of what we represent has been built in the last 40 years. Our introductory courses, invented by our faculty, teach thousands of undergraduates each year. And over the past 40 years, we have gone from being a mere 7% Hawaiians, being 7% of the campus, to over 15%, which qualifies us by an American policy as a native serving institution. Hawaiian studies and language, that growth has been only partly due to the presence of Hawaii Nuyakea. One of the things that our school has done is not only encourage our people to see the university as a career, as a place for them, as something that is in their destiny. We've actually spent much more time trying to recover the language, the stories, the songs, the hula, the ancient knowledge of our people, of a people who really understood how to live in islands the way that many of you do. When I say that I'm here to learn, that isn't just rhetoric. There are things that simply did not survive the 19th and 20th century for Kanaka Maoli, and one of them was the ability to live off of the land. So I want to begin really by stressing the importance of some of the values that have united us as a people, even as they have been disinherited from land, even as our government was removed by force at the end of the 19th century, even as we have suffered hundreds of thousands of settlers who have come in, who have made Hawaii their home, even as we have endured the creation of one of the largest military installations anywhere in the Pacific, and the things that come with militarization, the denial of people of land, the ruining of coastal areas from former fish ponds into harbors and Air Force bases and Army depots. So with all of this, and with the steady loss of language over the 20th century, our people come into the 21st century seemingly really ill-equipped for being able to deal with the kinds of crises we face collectively in the Pacific. And of course, I'm referring to climate change. The things that have kept us together as a people, without chiefly leadership, without government, without land, has been a strong sense of dignity enshrined in two words, aloha and kaulike. Aloha is a word that we don't use cheaply because it is a relational word. When we say aloha, we are extending respect and love, a sense of connection that we expect is returned. To say aloha to someone is to believe that they feel aloha for you. And that word and that belief and that understanding is so singularly important to how our people relate to one another and how we relate to people who are not native. Kaulike is another word. Kaulike, when you look in the dictionary for the word justice or equality, the English words, you will find kaulike. It means justice, it means equality, but it really isn't anything like those words. It's the closest approximation to what Americans and English-speaking people imagine is justice and equality. Kaulike actually means to make something alike, to make alike. It doesn't mean that we are all equal. It doesn't mean that we all are the same. It means that we recognize in others. I recognize in you and you recognize in me that we are different. But kaulike demands that we try and behave as though we are the same. That I extend to you the respect, the forbearance, and the attempt to try to act within your culture as best I can, just as you will for me. And when they told us last night that in drinking kava together and in conversing together and eating together, we are now being welcomed into this place, that is a sign of kaulike. Reciprocity is the key to aloha and kaulike. And I want to say to you that reciprocity is the key to our resilience and survival in this century as we face numerous crises. The crises that I put into this paper have much more to do with crises that are caused essentially by American society and culture. And Hawaii has been impinged on by that culture and its sense of values, perhaps more than you have. We are facing in those areas that are governed by the United States a continuation of denial that climate change exists or that it must be dealt with. We are also facing a huge chasm, a political chasm that exists in America between conservatives and progressives. They do not speak to one another. They cannot be in the same room together. They contribute to tremendous delays in fixing things that need to be fixed. And those of us in places like Hawaii really have to exist under their authority and government. And it is a very difficult thing to see. So, what can I bring to this place except for a complaint about America? As long as we have been teaching Hawaiian studies, we have been teaching our people to shift our attention and our sense of identity, I heard that word earlier today, away from Europe and the United States and toward the Pacific. We teach this as sort of elemental in our classes. If you look at our curriculum, if you look at we call them learning objectives, that sense of linkage to our ancestors in the Pacific is paramount. That means understanding where we come from, understanding that our languages and our histories, our ancient histories, are linked by genealogy. Your ancestors and our ancestors are common to one another. We are the same. Having said that, our experience over thousands of years, whether you live in Fiji or Samoa or Tahiti or Hawaii, they've all been slightly different. Then again, our experiences as colonized people also draws us together. We have seen many of the same kinds of efforts to wipe out our cultures, and in some cases, our languages, not just our religion, but our languages, our practices, our sense of who we are. The recovery of those things is what, our institution stands for. And we are forced to do these, to teach our people to reach for these things without some of the tools that are really essential. Chiefly leadership, a traditional sense of authority, an understanding of our place in a hierarchy. Those things are still present in many Polynesian societies. They are not present in ours. So where does our sense of respect come from? How does one teach someone to be respectful? How do we teach our children to be respectful without chiefs? We teach them to be respectful to elders. And we recognize that the elders they're being respectful to are people who have, in many ways, been really challenged by life in American Hawaii. Shall I give you some statistics? 60%, over 60% of the incarcerated men, women, and children in Hawaii are Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders, though we make up really only about 25% of the overall population. We teach our children to be respectful to our elders despite the fact that they may have spent time in prison. More than 70% of those who are houseless, unsheltered in Hawaii are Hawaiian and Pacific Islanders. We have to teach our children to be respectful of elders and of one another, even living in situations that our ancestors would have found unthinkable. How is it possible? How is it possible that our people, who numbered somewhere between 500,000 and 1 million people by the time that James Cook sailed into Kealakekua Bay, how is it possible that those people who were well cared for and housed and fed and taught and highly civilized have come to a point where thousands of our own people now have no place to live. How is it possible that we have not shamed those people who have come more recently? Shame them into understanding their responsibility to the poor and the oppressed. I'm not really speaking from this paper as much as I want to speak about it. We have been dislocated, and not just native people in islands, but people everywhere in the world. We are seeing tremendous numbers of people migrate from one place to another to escape war, to escape famine, to escape gangs in Central America. Many of them tried to come into America, and America has become more and more inhospitable. And what is deeply shameful to me as a Kanaka Maoli is that Hawaii, too, lives on the cusp of that inhospitability. We speak of inclusion, we speak of our lack of racism, and yet I have heard many Hawaiians disparage other Pacific Islanders, especially Micronesians in Hawaii, because they don't live like us, because they don't seem to have a place, because I think they are powerless and poor, and Hawaiians don't want to be associated with that. And yet we are related. How do we come to embrace those things that are real about our histories and about our lives? We have done this in song. We have done this in hula. Our people now write. The artists in our communities write about the need for us to remember aloha and kaolike and to live through this difficult and disgraceful period and learn from others. So, we must live aloha. It sounds like a slogan, but really, in truth, that connection with that sense of respect for others, that sense of wonder, that willingness, not just willingness, but desire to experience other people because they are different, is what I'm here to talk about today. Difference is what makes us resilient. It is easier to be trustful and to be comfortable with people who speak your language, who look like you, who grew up in the same village. It is more difficult to get to know, to become intimate with someone who does not share those things. And yet we learn from that. In Hawaii, another great strength of our people has been that unlike the rest of America, we pretty much married everybody who came into our clutches. It doesn't matter where they came from. And eventually, and it's really going to be within just a few years, there are going to be so many Hawaiians who have Micronesian neighbors that prejudice and that ugliness is going to disappear, as it has done for every other ethnicity that has come to our place. That is something I am proud of. Our sense of connection to one another, that diversity. I will tell you that when it comes to love, difference is probably just as important as attraction. The things we learn from one another, the way we change inside because another person speaks a little differently, thinks a little differently, is precious. And that is the struggle that we must maintain. That is the struggle that we really face, as climate change is going to force many of us to move, to change, to accommodate people who are moving. I know it's already happening in Fiji. It is definitely happening in Hawaii. And how we welcome others, how we make homes for them, how we incorporate their genealogies into ours, how we listen to their stories and allow those stories to become our stories, that is how we will succeed. I want to finish with this song, and it may be really difficult to sing this. When I first came to Fiji, to Ndave, in 2014 or 2013, I came to plan this conference in Madang, and there were several people there that I knew from before. One of them was a woman, Teresia Teaiwa. She was a professor at the time. I think she was teaching already at Victoria in Aotearoa. She had been at USP. She was a poet and a great, great scholar. She was from Kiribati, and her family was from Kiribati and from Fiji and from America. And I had known her when we were both graduate students together at the East-West Center in the 1980s. And we reconnected. She told me stories during that week or 10 days that we were doing that planning. And then when I saw her again in Madang, we just continued that relationship. She is a person that I miss dearly. And she would be here, I know, if she had not succumbed to cancer back in 2017. I'm going to sing this song, and I want to preface it because I know that there are many people here who are very close to the churches, who are reared in Christianity just as I was, just as I am a Christian. At the same time, I recognize, let me put this, I recognize the akua, the divinity in our people. I recognize that our ancestors are remembered as akua, as aumakua, as those who have gone before, who lived their lives well, and who leave something of themselves in their descendants that makes life worth living. And so when I refer to her as an aumakua, as a goddess, I mean what I say. A guide, a sense of morality and ethics, a person who gave us, those of us who read her papers, those of us who heard her speak, gave us a sense of how grand and graceful, intelligent, amazing all of our people are. Old men gaze to the horizon where the women see forever, and the stories that their lives become are spoken by the gods. I have known you, Teresia, by your love for all your islands, and I sing your name with gladness for the goddess you become. You have carried all these stories across the wide oceans, reminding us that history's a long and deep and free. I have heard you in a tale of hope. We're better than our pleas. This ocean and these tides, the Senate rope that tie us to our dreams. O kaho kele kele, teresia te aiwa, I kamoku kele au I ke ai. Tierra nuestra, Teresia, in this wondrous sea that greets us, I will see you, Teresia, by and by. O guardian of this ocean, our grand Moana Nui, mother, sister, and auntie, who shoulders all our fears, who writes the songs and psalms and words that carry rising tides. We hold them in the baskets you showed us how to tie. O kaho kele kele, teresia te aiwa, I kamoku kele au I ke ai. Tierra nuestra, Teresia, in this wondrous sea that greets us, I will see you, Teresia, by and by. Toward the distant waves that beckon us to search and to discover, you set your faith and joyful voice to sing your people's praise. And they know you, Teresia, in 1,000 ancient languages. Live long the aumakua of the poet and the sage. O kaho kele kele, Teresia te aiwa, I kamoku kele au I ke ai. Tierra nuestra, Teresia, in this wondrous sea that greets us, I will see you, Teresia, by and by. I will see you, Teresia, by and by. Hallelujah.